So we had a case yesterday of a smachta. What was the case of a smachta? A person went ahead, he sold the field to somebody and he said, if the 3 years, if I don't go ahead, what, it's he didn't sell it. He lent it to him, and he said, "For 3 years, I'm going to go ahead, what, and don't pay, and you don't pay me back. The field is mine, despite the fact being more than what than the worth." The loiva agreed to this, and we paskin that what that after 3 years that in fact it doesn't go back to the he can't do it basically a smachta lekanya, and therefore it was the money will view the money as a halva. And therefore, the payris, you can't eat the payris, right? Because then that would be what? That would be ribbis. That would be a back ribbis. So since a smachta lekanya hoda arab hoda payri, you're going to Rav Nachman's of the opinion that you're going to get back. Let's say Loikeach went ahead and ate the payris. In other words, the person mistakenly he went ahead and said, "Okay, the 3 years are up." So the Meicha now goes and takes the field. The Malva takes the field. Right, and the loiva thinks he lost it, comes along, starts to eat it. No, he can't eat during it because that's again a shayla of abakrubis. But afterwards, so that this is a case of mechila b'tois. What's the mechila b'tois over here? He thought he lost the field. He thought his condition was he's not a lamdin. He doesn't know the din of a smachta lekanya. He didn't know that he really didn't want to be maknit to the guy, and he thought that he lost the field, and therefore he thought the person it's his field and he eat the payris. So l'chayra, he is meichel the payris to the person. So it's a mechila b'tois. Mistakenly, he allowed him to eat payris, not knowing that it's his. So when you see that the payris go back, obviously Rav Nachman must be of the opinion that mechila b'tois loy havi mechila, because he gave him over the payris, and now you're telling me he gets it back. So obviously his mechila that he mistakenly made is not a mechila, because what? He's getting back the payris. If it was a mechila, the payros would remain by what? The lekeach. So says the Gemara. Let's with that in mind. Rav Nachman. Hashdam Rabbanon. We're on Samich Vav on the base about 8 lines up. Rav Nachman. Hashdam Rabbanon asmach lekanya. Now you say that asmach is lekanya. Hada ara the hada payros. If the loiva malva went ahead and took the field, then hada ara that goes back. It reverts back to the loiva. And the payris that he mistakenly ate after the time he took over the field would go back to the loiva. Remember the Savra of Nachman, mechila b'tois, the mechila that the loiva made mistakenly is loihavi mechila when he's getting back the payris. Guys, this is important to get this, right? Good. But Itmar, question. You're telling me that Nachman does mechila b'tois loihavi mechila. We have a problem. Hamoicha payris deka lechaveroi. Someone's selling the payris of a palm tree to his friend, and they're not in the world yet. So now the question is, can a person be makna dava shaloi boila olam? Can a person sell something that's not in this world? Can a person be makna dava shaloi boila olam? So Rav Huna, at shaloi boila olam yochel achsaboy. Before they come in the world, you can be chayzer. Why? Because there was no kinyan. There was no kinyan yet. Misha boila olam ein yochel achsaboy. Says Rav Huna, but however, once they're in the world, you can't go ahead and change your mind. Again, before they're in the world, it's a davar shlei bala olam. Once they're in the world, it's bala olam. So Rav Huna l'shitasai davar shlei bala ein oda makna davar shlei bala olam. You can't change your mind when it's not in this world. Rav Nachman Amar af mishaboy olam yachal achsaboy. Even when they come into the world, yachal achsaboy, one is able to go ahead and change his mind. Okay, mishaboy olam yachal achsaboy, you're able to go ahead. Because a person ain't the makna davar shalei bala olam. So again, according to Rav Huna says Adam it could be makna davar shalei bala olam when it comes in the world. So when it wasn't in the world yet, the kinyan you can't change your mind. Once in the world, the kinyan schal, because a person could be makna davar shalei bala olam. Says Rav Nachman, even when it's bala olam yachal achsaboy, because ain't other makna davar shalei bala olam. From Rav Nachman, Bondina, I agree. The shamit va'achol, that if you go ahead and eat it, loy mafkin minei. Now, l'chayra, here's what's happening over here. This is a chila b'tois. The guy thought that it belongs to the person he sold it to. It really doesn't belong to the person he sold it to, because just like asmach loikanya, so too davar shloi bala olam loikanya. So it really doesn't belong to the guy. Memela, if you're telling me that Rav Nachman holds when you see you get by the payris back by the asmachta, you should get back the payris over here by the davar shel ba'al. Because after all, in both cases, it's a tois. He mistakenly thinks it's in his rishus. Yet by asmachta, he says you do get back the payris, and over here, amoida loy mafkinan minei, you don't get back the payris, right? So what's the difference? What's the difference over there and over here? What's the difference over there and over here? And for Gemara, I'll tell you the difference. Hasam, by back to davar shel ba'al zvina. There it's a sale. There it's a sale, and that's why mechila b'tois is a mechila. That's why mechila b'tois is a mechila. There's no ribis issue over here. There's nothing concerned about over here. You had a sale. The question was the sale or not? If the person eats the payris, be Michael the payris. You're not being over any isser. It's an outright mechira. There is no schmeck of a loan whatsoever. Zero. I either sold it to you, I didn't sell it to you. I mistakenly thought I sold it to you. Keep the payris. I don't care. On the other hand, by the case of what? This is your I'm lending you money on the smach that 3 years later, if you don't pay, you're going to pay it back to me. Over there, it's a halva. I'm lending you the money. I'm lending you the money. It's an outright halva. Now, if you keep the payris nimsa, it's what? It's not even. It's even more than avak ribis, guys. It's michse karibis. It's michse karibis. And even though it's maybe ribis derabanan, it looks very much like ribis deraisa. And over here, we would be mafkina mimei. We'd go ahead and take it away from him. We're going to see Rashi in a second, fellas. Listen to this chiddush over here. We had a machloikis earlier in the Masechta between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Yochanan. Is ribis yoytze b'dayanim or not? We paskin like Rabbi Lazar that ribis kitsutza, meaning ribis deraisa, where you set the amount beforehand, that yoytze b'dayanim, you'll be able to collect the ribis. Avak ribis, you would not. That would stay. So over here, our case over here, where you mistakenly went ahead, gave him the field, and he's eating payris, this is, you're going to get it back. Why are you getting it back? If it's avak ribis, you shouldn't be getting it back, but you say you are getting it back, right? It must be there's a madrega over here that's similar to ribis kitsutza. So you look at Rashi, guys. Rashi pretty much says something very interesting. Hacha halvadi. This case where you thought it was a loan, and mistakenly the guy went on the field, right? It's halvahi. It's bottom Rashi, 2 lines from the bottom. Umichse karibis. And it appears like it's ribis. It doesn't say avak ribis, guys. It says it appears like ribis ktsutza. Shemitchile b'halva boloi. Initially, it came to him as b'halva. You lent me, remember I was at case yesterday, you lent me $1,000 and you want a field that's worth $3,000. So that whole neither over here, the whole transaction began as a loan. Ukiribis kitsusa dami. And it's similar to ribis kitsutsa. Why did Rabbi have to say that? To explain why you would have to give back the payris. Again, everybody holds, even Rebbe Loza, that avak ribis, the guy keeps the ribis, he keeps the payris. The only case where you don't keep it is when it's ribis ktsutza. Over here, you're telling me that hoda peri, that you have to give back the ribis. Why is that? It must be that this transaction is similar to ribis ktsutza so much that the Chacham said, give it back. Avak ribis b'dava halva, ele b'dava mecher. Avak ribis is by a dava halva and not by mecher. Going ribis, payris mesnisan. I'm going out on a limb, even though I didn't see this clearly, but I think this is the hesber. I'll give you 3 dargis of ribis, guys. Ribis ktsutza, where here's $5, you give me back 6. Aga not delay. I'm waiting to get back my money. It's in your possession. It's all set for me. It's ktsutza. That's ribis deraisa. When you give it back, you're going to have to give me back that extra zuz, whatever, the extra dollar, whatever it is. I sell you something, a property, right? I'm eating the payers on your property, right? You give me back the money for the property. So nimsa, the money was like a loan. That's but it really was a mecher initially, but now you're returning it to me. It's a vak ribis. Again, once it's a mecher, there is no such thing as ribis, kitsutza, ribis deraisa. It's all ribis derabanan. That's it. Avak ribis, ein yotzei b'dayonim, you keep it. There's a middle madrega that's not ribis kitsutza, but it's not avak ribis either. It's nichse keribis. Rashi says ukeribis kitsutza dami, and it's similar to ribis kitsutza. Ad kedei kach, even though it's only the rabbanon, nonetheless, if you go ahead and eat the peiris, you're going to have to go ahead and return it. This is the chiddush over here. So I lent you money, and I told you after 3 years I want the field back. You went ahead and said, you know what, deal is done. After 3 years, you took the field because I mistakenly, I didn't want to give it to you, but I am not a lamdin. I don't know a smach lekanya. You eat peiris from that. Good. You eat peiris from that. That is not avak ribis. That is michse keribis. That in lieu of the money that I lent you, you're going ahead and eating peiris. That will be yotzei b'dayonim. Rashi seems to say it openly, guys. One more time. Umichse keribis. It appears like ribis. This came into his possession because of the original halva of $1,000. Ukaribis ketzutza dami. And it's similar to ribis ketzutza. Why did Rashi have to say that? To explain why the peiris are being taken back. Because if it's avak ribis, the peiris are not being taken back. And Rashi explains the difference. The ain't avak ribis bedavar. There's no avak ribis over here. Why? Ela bedavar mecher. Avak ribis is where it begins as a sale. Going to marba peiris, the masnisan, the case of marba peiris in our Mishnah. So if you want to underline a Rashi or highlight a Rashi in this parak, this is the one to do. I think this is really a big nakuda in the whole inyan. So I think that's pretty clear. Okay, so now we're holding that really he holds that mechila b'tois is what is loy havi mechila, and is really havi mechila, and the reason by halva he held loy havi mechila is because of the ribis component, but a non-ribis component he would hold that what it's Michael, and therefore by the mecha a davar shlei b'lo olam he would say you can keep the peiris. Amar Rava, says Rava, havi asivna kamei the Rav Nachman. I was sitting in front of Rav Nachman, uboy loy suve oina, and you know what? I was going to ask him for oina, v'oidik, and he looked at me, and he presupposed my question, and chazin and Ilonis, and he was going to bring me a proof from Ilonis, not Ilonis, but Ilonis, but an Ilonis. But now, what's the question that he chapped us? What's the question that he chapped? The mechila b'toisi. Now we're saying that what mechila b'tois is havi mechila. That's why by when the peiris shalei b'loilam you let him keep it. Now oina, when you paid it, you weren't aware that you're being overcharged. You clearly paid it, right? And you didn't think anything about it. So it's a tois because it's a mechira b'tois, right? Just like mechira of a davar shalei b'olam is a tois. Mechira of a no of overcharging a sixth or a sixth or above is a mistake, correct? Right? And what's the din? Nonetheless, you have to give it back. So that's the kasha that Rava was going to ask Rav Nachman. Havi mechila, because you have to give it back. V'oidik, and he saw me, and chazinon, Ilonis, and he's going to bring a raya from Ilonis. Okay, what's an Ilonis, fellas? An Ilonis is a woman who doesn't have characteristics of a woman. Her voice is like a man. She doesn't have dud and breasts. And if a person marries her, then the marriage is a tois. Good? So quickly, we're going to see a few dinim. We're not going to go into them because we've done them before. And for brevity's sake, I just want to get to the kasha. By Ilonis, the mechila b'toisi. It's the mechila b'tois that she let you eat peiris. By the mechila, ditnan. Hamama enes. A girl who was married off by her mother or brother, a kedusha d'Rabbanan, and she does not need a get. She can refuse before she's an Irish, she can refuse the marriage. Vashnia, that's Daf Aleph in Yevamis, your grandmother, Sheni Laroyas, that we'll go to the other one. That was a very, very big chart that we had that I want to forget about. Ilonis, and an Ilonis, Ein lehem like Suba. They don't collect ksuba. V'loi peiris. This is what we need. Peiris. They bring nichsei miloig into the marriage. The husband eats the peiris. Right? Husband eats the peiris. Good. He doesn't have to pay it back. Guys, what's the kasha? An islandess is going to be out mechila b'tois, right? She mistakenly went ahead, thought she was married, and therefore she mistakenly thought that the husband gets the peiris. And v'loi peiris, but she doesn't get back the peiris. He keeps it. So what do you see? Mechila b'tois, avi mechila. Mechila. You know, she never, fellas. The assumption is she never would have gave him the peiris knowing that she wasn't married to him. She never would have given the peiris knowing she wasn't married to him. So it's the mechila b'tois that to let him eat the peiris. And nonetheless, what? You eat it. So we have a kasha from Aina. Aina is a case of mistake, and nonetheless you have to return it. That was the kasha Rav who asked Rav Nachman. Before he got to ask that kasha, Rav Nachman jumped in and said, 1 second, islandess is a raya. It's a mechila b'tois, and you still keep the peiris. V'loi mezainis, and mezainis, also they don't get mezainis. V'loi balois, they don't get the clothing. Okay, v'loihi, it's v'loihi. None of this is correct. Loi oina chavi tufta. Oina is not a tiyufta. V'loi islandess messiah, nor is islandess a proof. Okay, why was oina be a tiyufta? The assumption is when a person pays, he's unaware that he's being overcharged. But had he known, he wouldn't have. So it's a tois. And so now, had he known, he never would have given in. And you have to make the difference up to him. Fellas, maybe he does know. Maybe it's not a tois, right? But why? He doesn't know there's aina. Your assumption is that what? He knew there was aina and it was Michaelit. Maybe he never knew. Maybe since he didn't know, there's nothing. But had he known, maybe he would have been Michael. Who knows? Islandess Messiah, nor is islandess what a proof to him, because what's the swear of islandess? Right, it's betoist because she thought she was married, and since she thought she was married, she was Michaelit. It could be she knows and wasn't married. Says the Gemara, the nichale the tepik lashma the ishus. She knows she's not married, but it's worthwhile for her for it to be known she is married. In other words, I guess to be married, a married woman is better than to say that what? I'm a not married woman. Nebech, this woman's not married. So here, it goes out of coil, she's married. So in other words, what's the kasha? Or what's the raya? She knows, she thinks she's married. And since she thinks she's married, it's a tois, and she's Michaelit, and therefore he keeps it. No, she knows she's not married. So therefore it's not a tois. And nonetheless, she'll let him keep it. Why? Because it's worth it to her for it to be the shame in the street. Don't want that she's married. So in other words, Oino is not a kasha. Oino is not a kasha because maybe he doesn't know he's being cheated. So that's not a tois. On the other hand, if Mechila also by islandess also, she knows she's not married, and unless she'll let him keep it because it's worth it to her. There was this woman, the Amra lei lehachu gavra. She sent a shliach, zil zavenli ara mekrovai. Go buy a piece of land from my relative. She said, listen, go buy a piece of land from my relative. That's what she wants. So she wants a piece of land to be bought, and she wants it to go ahead and be bought by the relative. So she's making a shliach to go ahead and purchase the land. That's what she does. So what happens? Avul zavenla, he does his job, goes to the relative, and he buys the land. So Amalei, the relative says to the shliach at the time of the sale, Zuzi, if I'll have money, let me go ahead and buy it back. In other words, I want to buy back. So now, guys, we're going to get into the problem of if that's true, then the money that the isha has is a halva, and then the payers that she's eating is going to be an avak ribas problem. Again, if the sale's not a sale, right? The money that this person had in his rishus is a halva that she gave to him because she's going to have to return it, and now she's going to be eating payers. So it's set up for an avak ribas problem, correct? Again, we've gone through this a few times. If the sale is a sale, great. If it's not a sale, how are we going to view that money that's in the hands of the relative? She gave money. Now, if it's not final, that money must be what? It must be a halva. If she's eating payris, it comes out that lot in the profit that the aganota that she has to wait for her money to come back. She's eating payris, which is a problem. Okay, so now Amalei the Shliach says at v'navla ache. You and navla are kroivim. Now, navla, exactly what it means over here is a point of discussion. This is very interesting. Somebody on this Zoom might find this interesting. Give you a hint. He's my brother-in-law. At v'navla achai, says Rashi, ata v'hi kroivim. Atem v'tisratzu b'nechem. You both agree to that. In other words, you're kroivim, so the deal's a deal. V'navla loshin armi, and navla is an Aramaic term. Bein bezacha, bein b'nekeva. It works both ways. It switches back and forth. Kisharoit zoloima ata v'hu ay ata v'hi. So in other words, it could be either you male, you female. Navla means it could be either direction. The kach reisi b'tshuvas hagoinim. B'ani oimer zeshma, says Rashi, that was her name. Rashi says simply, it wasn't this unique thing about a word that could be used two ways. That name was Navla. In other words, so when he said your name is Navla, what exactly was meant by that? Was that mean he's agreeing to the terms? The shliach's agreeing to the terms, and now it's that situation of avak ribis, or not, or not, or is it worse? Says the Gemara. Let's see what's going on over here. Okay. So Rabbi Rav Huna says, Rabbi Rav Huna, Kol at v'navla achai, Amar smachta didei v'legomra makne. The moicher, the shliach, is being slemich on his words, and therefore he is not being makna. If he's not being makna, then the money will be as a halva. Therefore, ara hadre, when he pays up the woman, he's going to have to return the land. Peri mai. What's the payris? Now, the shaila over here, guys, seems to be, it's not a shaila if it's avak ribis, it's a shaila, it may be even what? Ribis katsutza, which is a little shver, but there is such a tzad in the Gemara. So there's no question that this woman's going to have to pay back the payris, maybe. How do we view it? My ribis katsutza have v'yoytze b'dayonim. At the onset, it was ribis katsutza, because she said it's not a sale, and therefore eating it was against the law, and it's ribis. Maybe it's avak ribis, because what's ribis katsutza, fellas? When you set an amount at the beginning of the transaction. I'm going to give you 5, you'll give me back 6. Now, over here, there was no set amount. There simply was the money is mine as a halva, and you're going to have to go ahead and make up the difference. It makes sense, says Rabbi Huna, that it's avak ribis, and she doesn't have to pay back the payris. A rabba or rava ki avik, right? Rabba ki avak ribis have v'inyatzeh b'dayan. Okay. So again, it wasn't a sale. If it wasn't a sale, the money by the woman. The woman had given to the moicher is a halva. The payrish she eats now is ribis. Shaila, how 5 ribis is a ribis katsutza, and he can get it back, or avak ribis. So both Rabba Bar Huna and Rabba say it's avak ribis, and she would keep the payris. Amle abaya l'Rabba mashkanta mai. Okay, that was by a mechira loan. What about a mashkanta? Now mashkanta means that what you gave a field as collateral. Like field as collateral, and you didn't say you could eat any of it. You gave it. And now this person can't eat it. So in other words, I go ahead, I borrow $1,000 from Heshi, I give my field to Heshi. Heshi is not allowed to go ahead and touch that field. I didn't say anything about eating payris, it's 0. He can't touch that field. If he's going to touch that field, that's going to create a scenario out of ribis, because it's a loan. So mashkin man. Pasam taimamai, the reason over there by the mechira that it's not avak ribis, that it's not ribis katsutza, mishum blei kotzlei. The woman, the guy said, "I'll buy it back," but he didn't set an amount of payers that you could eat, and therefore it's avak ribis. Hachanami lei kotzlei, by the mashkin, if he eats it, he didn't set an amount, and therefore it will be avak ribis. By dilma hasam zvina, over there it was a sale. that turned into a loan. Here, halva. Here it's an outright halva. And since it's an outright halva, maybe it would be ribis katsutza, and you'd have to go ahead and return it. It would be avak ribis and you have to return it. Now, obviously, this is not like Rav Nachman when we began the sugya, guys. Rav Nachman began the sugya with a smachta, and we said that hada ara hada peri. Right? This is not like Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman gave us a psak. You'd have to give the payers back. Guys, this is the Torah of Michsei Karibis. This is Rashi's Torah, right? You'd have to give it back. So this, obviously, this Shiloh does not go according to them, because there's a tzad. If it's a vak ribis, you don't have to give it back. The Chayra, it's more, this is more than Michsei Karibis. This is more Michsei Karibis than a vak ribis. So Amalei, so Rabbi told Abaya, Hasam time amai, Mishum loy kotzlei, Hachanami loy kotzlei. So here also, if Heshi would eat the payris, he wouldn't have to give it back. Amra Papi, over Ravina Uvda. Ravina did in a case like this where a person said at the Navla Achai, the Chashiv Avik Peri, and he took out the Paris. He took out the Paris. The Loika Rabbi Rav Huna. He took out the Paris like Rav Nachman and not like Rabbi Rav Huna. He didn't say it was a vakribus and you could keep it. He went ahead and said, okay, it was a Mechira and a Tanai, and therefore the money was not a sale, the money was a loan, therefore the Paris say, yeah, it is ribis. And therefore he took it back. Right. So that was Rav Papi. And so he didn't do like Rabbi Rav Hunu, let you keep it. Amar Berei Rav Yosef made the Rava. Hamashkanta ba'asur de Masalke. Again, I'm going through a whole sugya of mashkanta. So you're giving a mashkin. Now let's say this is a place where if you pay back the loan, let's say in my case, I give Heshi gives me a loan. I give him the field as a mashkin, and there's two possibilities. The terms of the loan is for a year. Can I go ahead and get Heshi off before the year is up? It would depend on the minig hamakom. If it's a place, the misalke, that you could go ahead and get him off, then it's a ribis problem of eating the payris. If, on the other hand, that I can't get him off for a whole year, then the svara is I sold him that field. Guys, this is the important for understanding the sugya. If I'm able to go ahead and get Heshi off before the year is up, then I'll view it as a halva, as part of the halva. If, on the other hand, I can't get it off, he has it squeaky clean for that year, it'll be viewed as Heshi bought that field for a year. Because I can't touch him, I can't do anything. And therefore, he'd be able to eat the payris. Let's see the Gemara. Mashkanta ba'asur de misalke, a place where I can get Heshi off, right? Achel shir zuzeh, if he eats the amount of the loan, misalkinanle. So Heshi ate the payris, right? He eats $1,000 worth of payris. Then I say, Heshi, it goes into height. I don't have to pay you back anything. You ate your chayv. Achel tfei, however, if Heshi eats $1,200 worth of payris, the extra $200 I will not be able to get back for him. Okay, so again, he's not supposed to eat the payris because it will view his body as since I can get him off, it's not sold to him. It's not sold to him. He eats the payris now. We'll deduct that achilas payris from the value of the loan. So if he eats the amount of the loan, anything more is a vak ribis. Anything more is a vak ribis, and therefore what he won't have to give it back. Now, not only that, let's say we have another loan. Let's say we have another business transaction, and now we have that extra 200. We can't go ahead and take that 200 and forward it to the other transaction. It stays with Heshi. However, when it comes to Yisayimim, if they eat the share of the loan, we'll go ahead and we'll take them off the land. If they eat more, however, we'll go ahead and we will take it back. If they eat more, we'll take it back from them. And therefore, we will go ahead and go from one star to another star. We'll go ahead and pass it down the line. We'll pass it down the line. Let's see Rashi, guys, on this. It will be Yisayimim. Im sadazu shel Yisayimim he. Achol tfei mafkina mine. Bezdin shebeir aviem shel Yisayimim. Why would you go ahead if they eat more, you'll take it away from him? If he eats more than, in other words, usually you let him keep it. But if he eats more of the field of Yisayimim, you're gonna take it away from him. It's only a vak ribis. Guys, it's only a vak ribis. Question. Anytime you're taking it back, you have to ask yourself why. It must be it's ribis ktsutsa. Over here it's a vak ribis. So why in the world are we able to take it back from if the field was the field of Yisayimim? Says Rashi, Shebezin Shebeir Aviem Shal Yisayimim. Bezdin in the city are the father of Yisayimim. Vayhem Shlitim, and they are in charge. They are ruling. Lasais Mishpat. Vehem le machlu ala oidif. They're not Michael sha'achal. V'habile command the silkur b'shaita the achal shizuzei. And it's if what they removed them at the time when you eat the shirzuz. And listen to this lumdus, guys. This is a tremendous lumdus. In my case with Heshi, right? Heshi's eating it. He gets to 1,000, the loan is paid off. Anything beyond that, the 200, we're going to view as a vak ribis, and loy mafkina, we let him keep it. If on the other hand, Heshi was eating from the field of Yisayimim, he eats 1,200. Once you got to the 1,000, right, we'll view the 1,200 as you're stealing the 200. In other words, whatever you're eating, we're going to view it as the total chayv. The total chayv was 1,000. Now by eating, you're stealing. And therefore, mafkina mine, because we need a mechanism to go ahead, guys, and take it out of avak ribis in order to take it away from Heshi. The lumdus over here is, look at Rashi's lashon, fellas. V'havile kimandis selkur mishaita, the akol shir zuzeh, the achol shir zuzeh. We'll view it as we removed him and he ate shir zuzeh, and now he's stealing the rest. He's stealing the 200. That's the lumdus behind why by Yisayimim you would go ahead and be mafkinon. Back in the Gemara. Rashi disagrees with the whole premise. Rashi, hashda the amit achol tefei loy mafkina minei. Once you're telling me that it's a vak ribis, achol shizuzei nami loy misalkinan lei. Even the original payment is a vak ribis. And beloy zuzei loy misalkinan lei beloy zuzei. We won't go ahead and deduct it. He's going to have to perish. Rashi says in the case of me and Hesh, if Heshi eats 1,200, you're going to take away the 200. You're also going to say if he eats 1,000, the loan is still in effect, and he has to go. I have to pay him 1,000. I can't get away with Heshi going ahead and paying him with the produce that he ate. I can't get away with that. Why? Because that is a vak ribis, and a vak ribis. If he's going to go, I'm going to go ahead and use it as a payment. It's mafkinan from Heshi. We're taking it away from Heshi. We're taking the money he would have gotten and we're substituting fruit. Again, once you're telling me if you go over the 1,000 to 200, 1,200 to 200 is a vak ribis, really the whole 1,200 is a vak ribis. And since the halacha of a vak ribis is loy mafkinan, we let him keep it, how in the world can I use it to pay my loan? That will be mafkina mine. So therefore, that's what Rav Ashi says. Rav Ashi, if you eat more, in that case, the 200. You're not going to go ahead and take it away from Heshi. The 1,000, we're not going to go ahead and say that, take it away from him without payment of kish. My timer, and I'm going to have to pay him kish. My timer, to take him off without giving him kish, we're taking away what? We're using the payris. I have vak ribis and the yetzer b'dayanim. And if vak ribis not yetzer b'dayanim, so a very nice lumdus over here in this case. Over Rav Ashi Yuvda, B'Yisayimim, Ketanim, he went ahead by Yisayimim Ketanim, Kigedolim, and he treated them, the Gedolim, that even though they ate, the person ate the share of the zuz, we did not go ahead and let him go off the field. We didn't go ahead, says Rashi, even though they ate the share, we did not take him off the field until they paid up the money, right? Because the Dayanim didn't have the ability to take him off until it was paid up. Amar Rava, Rav Yosef, Mishmei de Rava, Hai Mashkanta Ba'asra de Misalke. Again, let's go through the two stadim, guys. A mashkin that you could pay up before the terms of the loan are over, then it's viewed as a halva. A mashkin is halva. It's not sold to him. A mashkin that you can't go ahead and pay up early, it's considered that he bought it and he has use of the Paris. Good. So the big problem is with a mashkin that you can take him off the field. If he's going ahead and eating the Paris during that time, it's a problem. If he eats Paris during the time that it's loy misal kinon, then it's not a problem because he's eating his Paris. If I can't get you off for a year, it's sold to you for a year, so eat your Paris goes into height. If on the other hand I could get you off, it's not viewed as a mechira. It's not viewed as a mechira. So is there any way you could eat Paris then? Or else it's going to be an avak ribis problem if I pay you up. So now here's the Gemara Shaila. Amar Rabbi Yosef made the Rabbi. Hai mashkanta ba'asra de misalka, in a place where you could remove him. Loy nechel, don't eat. Oh, don't eat because that's avak ribis. El bin nachyasa, you could eat bin nachyasa. In other words, if you're going to deduct X amount, listen, the loan's $1,000. Whatever you eat, I'll deduct, maybe not dollar for dollar, but I'll deduct a little bit. So once you're deducting a little bit, it's not ribis, right? Because again, it's going to pay off the loan. So we'll deduct a little bit. Good? One more time. If it's a place that I can be masalakim, then we don't view as Heshi owning the land. If Heshi's not owning the land, and I'm going to pay up Heshi the loan I owe him, and he's eating from Paris, that's avak ribis. Good. Maybe even close to ribis ktsutz according to other opinions, right? There's a way you could eat. Heshi could eat if he deducts a little bit from the loan. Nothing was set up front. He could deduct a little bit from the loan. Good. However, with Sumar Rabbanon, I feel a bit nechel. Sumar Rabbanon shouldn't eat because people, Rashi says, shetzarach liyashet rochav, he has to be squeaky clean, he has to be totally yashar, uliskadesh and be kodesh, af bin mutallah, even something that's permitted to do. Pen yilmadu mimenu lizalzel b'surim, other will learn from him to be mizalzel b'surim. I feel bin achyaisen nami loy nechel. Even by deducting, he shouldn't eat. Again, because this field is not a mecher, and therefore it's a stretch even to let him eat by nechyaisa. Therefore, you're at Sumar Rabbanon, you have to be more squeakier clean than them. Okay? So we want to know now, the Gemara, is the possibility of any possibility if a Talmud Chacham could eat from this field, from a field. Is there any Heicha Timtza where you could eat from the field? So again, if it's a field that you can't get him off, that's not a problem. Why? Because it's a mecher. If it's a field that you could get him off, then it's considered a halva. If it's halva, it's a problem. So what's the way to avoid the problem of ribis? Is to go ahead and eat bin achyaisa by making a deduction. Says the Gemara, El b'may nechel, how in the world can a Talmud Chacham eat? He can eat bikitsusa by setting a limitation on the years of eating. By setting a limitation on the years of eating, that's the heicha timtza that he could eat. Okay, that's what the Gemara says. And the Gemara will say in a second what exactly that means. Now, hanichel l'manda amar kitsusa sharia, very good at setting a limitation. A Talmud Chacham can eat. L'manda yom kitsusa siri, that even setting a limitation. Ma'ik l'meima, how could you have a Talmud Chacham eat? De'imar, what's that machlokes? Kitsusa pligi bar avacha ravina. Machlokes avacha ravina. Chadam kitsusa sharia, v'chadam kitsusa sira. One of them says setting a limitation on the field, it's us to eat. One says it's muta. Hechi dami kitsusa. What exactly is setting a limitation? So for example, the Amar Lei, the Malva says, Ad chamesh shonim achilna lo, very, very important, watch the words, guys. Ad chamesh shonim, for the first 5 years, achilna lo ben achaisa. This loan is for 10 years. The first 5 years, you eat without any deduction. Mikan ve'elech, from that time and onwards, shaiminu le kula peri, I'm going to go ahead, and everything you eat, dollar for dollar, I'm going to go ahead and deduct. The Ritva speaks out that this is a very interesting thing. We can view this Heshi in our deal as an oris, as a sharecropper. Usually a sharecropper gets a percentage of the crops year by year. What happens if I front load it and I give him the percentage in the first 5 years? As he's a sharecropper, we're front loading his percentage he'd have over each year. I'm front loading it all to the first 5 years. Viewed that way, it makes sense that such a deal could be made. It's not a halva, right? It's an aris. He's a sharecropper. That's the Ritva beautifully explains this case. So now you're going ahead, but however, after the 5 years are up, Heshi eats, but it's going to be shava b'shava. He's going to have to pay without percentages. He's going to have to pay exactly what he ate. He's going to have to pay for exactly what he ate. That's kitsusa. Why is the kitsusa? The kitsusa is that he set 5 years as a place that he could eat. Okay, so again, the first case, you're going to eat without any deduction. It's all yours. That's the first lashon. Ikadi amri kol b'loinach yaisa aser. Anytime eating is never permitted without deduction. So he disagrees about this first 5 years, that eating without a deduction. Aval heicha dami kitsusa. What's kitsusa? The amadlei ad chamesh shnin achlinan bin yaisa. The first 5 years you eat with a deduction, not dollar for dollar. It's going to be dollar for dollar. So the machloikas in the two Lashonis guys, what's the first 5 years? According to the first 5 years, you're eating you're eating without deductions. According to the second Lashon, you're eating with deductions. Good. And they argue this, and they argue in both. In other words, they argue in one or the other. So now, this machlokes in Ravina and the Gemara feels like Manda asa b'kamaisa, the one who would said it's asa even when you're eating without deductions, right? Who would asa there? Shari basraisa certainly would permit in the latter where you're eating with deductions. Again, in the former you're eating without a deduction. If he says there it's asa, but what happens eating with deductions? He'd say it's muta. So in other words, he wouldn't disagree in the Ikadiyamri. He would agree in the Ikadiyamri. No, there'd be no machloikas in the Ikadiyamri. The machloikas is where you don't make deductions. Where you do make deductions, he'd agree you could eat. So there's no machloikas then in the Ikadiyamri. Shari Basraisa. Manda Asa Basraisa, but if the machloikas is in the latter one, that even when you make deductions, it's not permitted, Hechi Shari Lemechel. How in the world would you ever have a Talmud Chacham being able to eat? Because he wouldn't even permit you to eat even when if you can't eat when you don't make deductions, where you do make deductions, you won't be able to eat certainly where you don't make deductions. So on that, the Gemara answers, Shari, when the Talmud Chacham will be able to eat is Kemeshkanta de Surah. The Meshkanta that they make in Surah, the Meshkanta in Surah is, we're going to see Tosfos, but you're going to set a set amount at that. I'm lending it for 10 years. Heshi, it's $1,000. Every year we're going to deduct 100. You're going to need $100 for the payers. At the end of 10 years, the loan is fallen. In that situation, the Talmud Chacham would be able to eat. And that Talmud Chacham is able to eat. Okay. What's the lashon of Kimeshkanta de Surah? The Chsiv Bey, what does it say in the Mashkin of Surah? The Shtar says, the Mishlem Shnaya Ilin, at the end of these years, Hepik Arada B'le Kesef, the land reverts back to the loive without kesef. So I gave you a mashkin. For X amount of years, for X amount of deductions, and that heicha timsa the Talmud Chacham would be able to eat. Rav Papa Rav Huna Brei Vishua Amri Travayu Hai Mashkanta Ba'asra de Misalke. This mashkanta in a place where you could remove him, so it's not a mecher. Guys, it's not a mecher, guys. So therefore, ein bal choiv goy v'himenu. This, since it's outside. If I can get Heshi off this land before the terms of the agreement are up, we're going to view the land not being sold to Heshi, but it's being kind of metaltal in Heshi's hands. On the other hand, if I can't get him off, it's a sale to him. Now, the Gemara now is going to go through various halachas that we're familiar with vis-a-vis this land. So, for example, if it's a place ba'asra, the asra delay, the misalke, that you can go ahead and I can remove Heshi by paying him out. Ein bal choiv goy v'imeno. Since I'm able to get Heshi off the land, he's not kind of the good for the land. He's not kind of the land, and therefore it remains. It's only for the payers, and payers are metaltalin, and therefore the bal choiv doesn't collect it. So I have a bal choiv. I have a guy I owe money to. He's looking at my property. He wants to collect. He sees that I gave a property to Heshi. And Heshi he has what? One second. Who's the Baal Chayv? Is Heshi's Baal Chayv or my Baal Chayv? Okay, it's not my Baal Chayv. Okay, so Heshi has. Now let's get Heshi out of the picture for a second. Harry, I owe Harry money. Harry's the Malva. Harry has my land, and Harry has my land that I can get rid of Harry by what? By paying him off. I can pay off Harry and get rid of him. So Harry obviously doesn't own the land. Now Harry dies, and a Baal Chayv comes to go ahead and collect from this land. They can't, because you can't collect from your Simon from a Taltalin. In other words, Harry's kids won't have to pay it up, because it's not like Harry owns the land. It's metaltalin, and you don't collect metaltalin from your Simon. So therefore, since I'm able to go ahead and get Harry off the land by buying it, Harry's kinyan in the land is only a kinyan for the payers in the land, and that's out metaltalin, and therefore Harry's Baal Chayvos cannot collect from him. Good. In addition, Harry's Bechor would not get Pishnayim. Harry's Bechor would not be Pishnayim because Paris is considered not something that's muchsik. It's not something you're holding on to at the time of the death. It's roy. So it says the Gemara, Hay mashkanta b'asar b'salke ein Baal Chayv goyimeno, beina Bechor noitel ba Pishnayim. It's because it's considered roy to come. It's not considered muchsik. It's not karka that's there. Ushviyish mishamtena, and the Chayv is going to be mishamit. Since it's metaltalin, the Chayv will be comes Shemitah time, they'll be taken off. However, uba asra deloy misalki, in a place deloy misalki Baal Chayv, misalki, stop, in a place where I can't buy Harry out. I can't buy Harry out. So it's like I sold it to Harry. Baal Chayv goy v'himena. Then Baal Chayv can collect from Harry. Ubechor noitel pishnayim, and Bechor would get pishnayim because this is considered muchzik. Being shvius mishamtena, right? And shvius is not mishamit because it's considered holding on. It's meshubit. It's in a karka. So therefore, that's the difference between, again, nafkamina, between a mecher that is that a mashkin that you can misalik and mashkin not. A mashkin that you can misalik is viewed as metaltalin. A mashkin that you can't misalik is viewed as karka. And nafkamina by what? By Baal Chayv, Bechor, and Shemitah. Papa, high mashkanta ba'asr de misalke, right? A place where you can take them off by buying them out. Misalik le va'afilu mitame de ubudja. When they would harvest dates, fellas, they'd spread under the tree, the date tree, they'd spread mats, and the dates would fall on the mats. Now, if I pay up my loan to Heshi, and Heshi's harvesting, and it falls on the mats, he won't be able to eat those payers. I will be koined, right? Misalkele, I can be misalik Heshi, even from the tomorrow on the mats, right? And we don't say the mats are koina, because you want to say why don't you say that the mats is koina for Heshi? However, if he picked them up and he put it in his basket, in other words, he did hagbah beforehand, putting in the baskets is lavdafka, kanoneo, then Heshi will be koined. So the question is, why not kinyan chatzah, guys? Because it's skiris, and skiris is koined from everybody else except the muska. Well, the man and according to Mandiyama, that the kelev or lekeach, in this case Heshi, is koin in the rishus of the moicha, in this case me, then even if he doesn't pick it up, but if it falls onto the kalim, then it'll be koin. Okay, we'll stop over here.